So I'm a planetary scientist and I work on a number of different research projects looking at the lunar surface environment and how we might access and utilise some of the resources that we might find there to hopefully support a future moon base one day. And more recently I've been looking at radioisotope power systems and how they might be used to provide heat and electricity in some more hard to reach places across the solar system. To investigate the lunar surface environment involves a number of different techniques. So we might analyse some of the moon rocks and the soil, for example, that was collected by the Apollo astronauts around 50 years ago now. We also have remote sensing, so satellites around the moon that have taken some really interesting images and interesting data that we can use. And also we make like analogue material that we can also do testing and experiments with that almost replicate the environment on the moon. In school, my favourite subjects were definitely the science and the maths and the kind of the typical ones for future scientists. But generally, I really liked everything. I think the main thing I had was an interest in the world around me and trying to better understand it. And then I also did have a lot of hobbies, mostly sports related. So I did a lot of competitive gymnastics and athletics. And I think that really taught me a lot about sort of perseverance and hard work to kind of like achieve a goal. And that's definitely been important in working as a scientist. So the pathway into my current role has been quite interesting, quite different. So I started out as a physicist in my undergraduate degree, then I trained and worked as a high school teacher. I did work as a teacher for a short period of time. I went through the training and then working professionally. And honestly, I went into teaching because I thought it made sense. I really liked working with young people. I did some sports coaching, for example, when I was younger. And after I finished my physics degree, I didn't really know what I wanted to do next. So I did really enjoy teaching, but I found that I wasn't done yet in being a student. I wanted to learn more. I wanted to see what else I could go and achieve. And I always knew that teaching was a solid career for me to go back to if I needed it. And after that, I then went back to study. I did my master's degree at the University of Leicester, studying space exploration systems. And that's where it really sort of lit a fire in me, learning all about the space environment, spacecraft systems engineering, and understanding how to keep humans alive in space for a long period of time. And from there, I knew this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to go into research, and that's when I went and completed my PhD in planetary science, working on future lunar instruments and experiments that we might do one day. So I completed an internship in Houston at the Lunar and Planetary Institute, which is a really great research facility where they address some of the really key scientific questions that NASA are facing, particularly related to the moon. And every summer they take on graduate interns and we work intensively on some really interesting projects. So we were looking at understanding the shadowed regions of the moon, which is where we think there are ice deposits. So we were trying to analyse some images to try and understand how boulders roll into shadowed regions to help us see what happens to the regolith there, which is like the dusty material. And see, do the rocks sink? Is it really soft and fluffy, or is it really hard? Because that will help us then design our future moon landers and rovers to go explore there. And it was a really great experience, just having fun summer in Texas. And we also got to work closely with the Johnson Space Center nearby, and we got to go visit the Apollo sample curation facility. So we got to see where the moon rocks are kept behind lock and key, which is a cool day. And then since then, I've just been working in a handful of different roles at different universities in different countries, working on just projects that really fascinate me, and I'm just going to keep going as long as I can. A typical workday for me is actually quite computer-based, so a lot of desk work, but that can involve a lot of different things, whether that's designing some new piece of hardware using computer design, or I might be helping support students, research students on their latest projects, or trying to corral different team members around the world, trying to organise meetings to help us work on our next activity. But a lot of what we do is really just coming up with new ideas and interesting ways to apply our technology so that we can hopefully bring in some funding and work on the next big project. I think the space sector is a really exciting place to work because we get to work on different projects all the time at the same time with people around the world. So no one really can achieve something in space as a solo person. You really have to work collaboratively with people with incredibly different skill sets. And I think that just makes every day different and every day interesting. And you're constantly learning new things and working on things that have never been done before. I love what I do because I still have the passion for space that I did when I was a child. And I think that applies to pretty much everyone working in the space industry, is that we all just love space. And that's quite a privilege, I think, to be able to work on things that you're excited about. If someone is interested in working in this field, I would say just follow your interests, because it's really hard to define a clear career path, because so often the roles that we have are very specific to the different projects that we're working on and the different teams that we're working in. I think one of the main skill sets that you really need to work as a scientist or a researcher is being comfortable working in the unknown. Quite often we're working on things that no one has done before. We don't know what the solution might be or how to get there. So I think the space sector is a really exciting place to work, especially in the UK at the moment. And for example, when I was younger, I thought to work in space meant to study astrophysics and look through telescopes and look at the stars. But I found I wasn't as interested in that. I was interested in human space exploration, spacecraft on the moon, and I thought that was only really done in America or in the movies, watching Apollo 13, my favourite movie growing up. And then it was really great to see just how involved the UK is in developing all of these different spacecraft and hardware and working on these really cool missions. And now I get to be part of that. And I just want to highlight that is available for young scientists and engineers or anyone working in any industry. It's just growing massively. We are going to be living in space in the next few decades, and we need everyone involved.